Hi guys, and welcome to this week's Indie Spotlight, which Burrell actually conveniently reminded me I'd forgotten to record, so it's going to be out a bit late today unfortunately, but it will be there at least. As you can see, this week we're looking at Mini Metro. This is a game I've had knocking around for a while now, before it made it onto Steam in fact, and it's quite a fun little game, though very frustrating at times. So the basic concept is that you're running a metro line, a subway, underground, depending what country you're from, and basically you just have to link the stations up. Seems easy enough. You have a limited number of lines, limited number of trains, which increases over the course of the game, but also more and more stations start appearing, and you get many more actual customers, commuters, however you want to call them, wanting to use your system. So I'm just going to jump straight in here and show you how the game starts out. We have a few options here. I'm going to click on this first one because that's a new thing. I haven't actually seen that before. I assume it's a difficulty level. But let's go with London here, shall we? There's a few different maps, different layouts, see rivers in the way and all that sort of thing. That's a complicated one. But I'm going to go for London. Now I should say I'm not amazingly good at this game, but how it works is basically like this: you just link the stations together, train goes round, picks people up. Basically the symbols at each station, each symbol is one person and it represents which type of station they want to go to. I can create extra lines like this, which helps with some of the demand. You get a limited number of river crossings, so if I try to let's see, if I try to run this over here and then back over, I don't have enough stations at the moment to demonstrate really, but yeah, it won't let me cross the river eventually when I have too many, when I try to do that too many times. So my mouth got away from me for a moment there. That's not the phrasing at all, is it? Your mouth doesn't get away from you. The words did, however. But as you can see, in the early stages it's fairly slow. But as it goes on it gets much more frantic, and as I say, sometimes a lot more frustrating. So what I'm going to do here is skip ahead to a later portion of the game and I'll show you how that goes. Oh, I forgot to mention, every Sunday, you see the clock up the corner here, is when you get upgrades available. So once a week you can choose a new thing, like a new line, or a new train or whatever to add to your service to make it game a bit easier on you. You start off with 3 lines available. There's a list down the bottom here. If I click on that, that's how many spare trains got available and that's how many more river crossings available. So I will join you on Sunday when I get a new option. Now what you see me doing here is rearranging the lines while the game's paused. Pressing space allows you to pause, and that can be a big lifesaver sometimes when you have a lot of changes to make. Because the last thing you want is for commuters to be piling up and demanding service while you're busily trying to rearrange every track that you own. Now here you can see what happens on a Sunday. We're just transitioning onto the Monday there. The game pauses for you. I've received a new train, or a new locomotive I should say. And I can choose to either have a new carriage, which increases the capacity of one of the trains, or to have 2 new river crossings. Now generally I don't use so many river crossings, so I'm going to probably go for the carriage. What I tend to do is just have 1 or 2 services that transfer across the river, and then have the others contained like within the top or within the bottom area. So I'm going to save these train and carriage for when things get busier later, because it's always good to have some reserves available. And I will rejoin you when things get a bit more hectic. Now one thing you just saw happen there was that this station appeared beneath a track, or on top of a track, however you want to look at that, and it automatically connected it into the service. Now that's actually a fairly recent feature, well, recent as things go in the development of the game, and it avoids situations where you have to reroute, say, an entire train line just to accommodate a new station. For example, if one appeared here right now, I'd have to demolish, well not demolish, I'd have to remove the line from these stations or these stations, and then attach it to the new station and then relay it again, which was quite annoying. So this is quite a nice new feature. What I'm going to do is lock this in place. Can I do that? Thank you. I like to see what I've got available at the bottom here. As you can see, I'm still restricted to the 3 possible lines, which means at the moment I've got one that crosses the river, and then the others are basically covering the entire top or the entire bottom. Now this indicator here means that there's a lot of people piled up waiting to be picked up by the train, which doesn't tend to work out well for you, because that means that station's being underserviced somehow. Either that the line it's on doesn't have any convenient access to that particular type of station. For example, if a hexagon station was over here and someone over here wanted to get to it, they all have to transfer via this station or this station, probably that one, and then you'll have to transfer again via this station, and that means that people can build up quite quickly at those choke points. Now what I could have done is add in an extra train on the existing line to carry those people, but instead I elected to just extend the existing line down to that station just to double the number of trains that visit there. As you can see, most of the people wanted to go to the triangle station, which is convenient because I have one immediately above, and there's also one further on the red line and also on the yellow line, so there's a lot of options for where to take them to. Now it's Sunday again, so I got a new locomotive, and this time I can choose between a new line or a new carriage. I'm going to go for a new line because they're always very useful to have. And what I will do is start splitting up this top area. So I'm going to remove this from these stations, make it into a little loop going around here, and then add the new line in as another loop around here. And this just reduces the number of stations that each train has to service. Though note that now the entire yellow line is made up of circle stations, which may be a problem for me because now the yellow line is basically having to cart people everywhere else in order to allow them to reach other stations. So I've added a new train and a new carriage to that line, and hopefully there'll be enough to manage the extra traffic. My carriage didn't actually get attached, did it? There we go. And wow, you can see there's a lot of people ending up queued up on that station. So unfortunately the blue line also has to transfer those people. So what I will do is take that carriage off and add it to blue instead. Take the carriage off and add it to the blue instead. Now this is turning into a fairly disastrous run, unfortunately, mostly due to my own incompetence. As we are failing right about... no? Oh, we just got saved in a nick of time there. I do have a station over here that I've completely ignored though. Can I route it around? No, I can't route it around. That counts as a river crossing, unfortunately, just catching the corner there. So, one thing you can do that I haven't pointed out yet, so I just get a new locomotive and a new line, is much like with stations appearing under the line, in order to avoid rerouting the entire track, you can drag a line out to a new station, rather than disconnecting it from all the stations, adding it to that one, reconnecting it again. Much easier just to drag the line out and add it. Again, that's a fairly new feature that's quite handy. I apologise for all the dinging in the background there, by the way. I appear to have not remembered to cancel the audio from a certain other program. What I will do is add that to there. And there we go, game over. Too many passengers build up at a station and you lose. Basically imagine mass riots, your funding gets cancelled, it's a whole disaster. So I'm going to bring us into a different round and I'll join you there. Now I've just checked up on what these options mean because I really should have done. I just completely forgot they existed because it's been a while since I've played the game. So commuter is your standard scored mode where you're basically fighting against the increasing number of passengers wanting to use your service. Scenic is basically a zen mode where you just get a time to relax and structure the system as you want to try to build the most efficient system possible, without having to worry about surges of customers in particular stations and, you know, all the usual constraints and restrictions that really make it difficult to build the service up in commuter mode. And Rush Hour, finally, is basically their advanced play mode, which just makes it very difficult, and which I'll be going nowhere near, at least for the foreseeable future. So what I'm going to do is pop into a scenic mode game. So what do we have here? We have the usual city options, as you expect. What looks interesting? This looks. I've never played most of these cities. I believe London, Paris, New York, and Hong Kong were the only ones available last time I played. That's how long ago it was. So let's try this one out. It's got some very interesting rivers there. So starting out with 3 lines, 3 trains to go with those 3 lines, and 5 possible river crossings. What does this indicator mean? That I do not know. Is it the number of passengers I've picked up? Yes, I averaged 4 passengers per day over the previous week apparently. New locomotive, new line. Actually, just to have a bit of fun, I can make a line per connection. Actually, that one's useless, isn't it? Oh, I have no more lines, unfortunately. I imagine the river crossings issue is going to get very difficult over this left side here, isn't it? So I wonder what happens in Zen mode if I don't service a station. Yeah, let's leave this triangle one completely unserviced for now. Is it possible to lose in this mode? It looks like it might be capping at 1 passenger per station. Oh, no, there's 2. They're certainly a lot slower, though. There's 4 passengers. I'm basically just going to leave that station unserviced and see if it's possible to lose. But yeah, this mode is definitely a lot more peaceful than the commuter mode. Obviously, with the much slower generation of passengers, it's much less to worry about. Okay, it looks like when you go across multiple rivers, it only counts as 1 crossing. So basically, between any 2 stations, you can cross as much water as you want, and that's all 1 crossing. I suspect that will help out a lot in this, because otherwise you could have multiple crossings per, like, join between stations, which would rapidly get out of control. I only have 1 left now as it is. That station's sitting at 6 passengers waiting, and it looks like it might be capped there. As you can see, in Zen mode there's basically a lot of waiting around, very much like the early stages of a commuter mode game. And that really lets you strategize. If I was willing to do so right now, I'm just mostly messing around with the lines, to be honest. Oh, it looks like we have an extra passenger over here. That is now 7 passengers waiting. One of them is pulsating even. Wonder if that means anything. 13 passengers per day? Still quite slow. I no longer have any river crossings left available. In fact, I have 2 lines to use up now, don't I? Can't cross the river there, so that's 1 line, and then another line. And in fact, let's reduce the amount of places the red one's going to, and reroute this green one a bit. Oh, now we have 8 passengers here. I might be rapidly heading towards failing, if that's possible. Anyway, I think that's enough messing around in this mode. It doesn't look like I'm going to be failing anytime soon, so... Oh, there's your first example of a non-circle, triangle or square platform. Station. But yeah, it looks like I'm not going to be failing anytime soon, so I'm going to exit this game. Let's exit out to the menu. Now there's a couple of nifty little features in this game, because of course obviously it relies on colour quite a lot. It's a very minimalistic design which I quite like. There's a night mode which makes it much easier to play at night because you don't have a blinding white light on your face. And there's a colourblind mode which switches the colours around. As you can see here, the blue and yellow have been swapped over, or rather blue has become yellow. And I don't recall what colour substitutions are made, but I assume that it would avoid most of the common sort of pairs of colours that are hard to differentiate for colourblind people, or particular varieties of colourblindness. So that's a very quick look at Mini Metro, created by the guys over at Dinosaur Polo Club, which is one of the better studio names I've ever heard. If you like the look of it, I'll provide all the links in the description below so you can check out the game for yourself. If you like this episode, hit like. If you want to see more, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.